Joe's coming on now because Joe's got something to say about the scandal going on in Henrico. Joe Morrissey, Fighting Joe Show. Hey, Joe, great to have you, man.
Good morning, John. It's great to be on the John Fredericks Show. Thank you for inviting me. I've got to tell you a couple of observations, like the new Michael Jackson just beat its theme. I haven't connected all the dots, but I like the music. Good on you for that. Number two, as a moderate Democrat, I said for 10 months the Democrats would make a mistake if they pursued an impeachment inquiry. They have pursued that inquiry. It is going to backfire. That is not coming from a Trump acolyte or supporter. I am not. But it's coming from somebody who just, I think, uses his practical sense. Bad mistakes for the Democrats to do this. It will hurt Biden tremendously. And at the end of the day, if an impeachment vote were taken in the House, and if it was along partisan lines and the president was impeached, then the Senate would acquit him with all 100 senators serving as jurors, and then he would go on a victory lap sometime in the spring of 2020, and it would be, I think, very devastating for the 2020 elections. That's just my opinion.
Why are they doing it?
Here's why, John. There's tremendous pressure on Pelosi from new Democrats that have just come into the House to pursue impeachment. I believe she resisted it as long as she could. Remember, she herself is on slippery ice. Her tenure as Speaker, at most, I believe, is one term. And I think that the pressure was simply something that she could not resist. But if you think this through, all right, here's what you're going to end up happening if you think this through. And it does not take rocket science. There will be a hearing in the House of Representatives, and as much as they bring in witnesses to say that Trump tried to influence a federal election, i.e. the upcoming 2020 election, by getting a foreign sovereign to investigate Biden, as much as they try to get that in front of the American people, they also will hear about Biden's defalcations and his son Hunter going to China on Air Force Two, inking a $1.5 billion deal, that he was on a gas company that paid him $50,000 to $80,000 a month. It is going to be very, very, very uncomfortable for Biden. Now, remember, what it boils down to is this. Assume arguendo that Trump asked the president, I think his name is Scalise, I've said it so many times, I'm having a freeze, the president of the foreign sovereign, to investigate Biden. Remember, he's asking him to investigate Biden because he believes that Biden, whilst vice president, was also holding up aid and trying to influence the foreign sovereign. So it's going to be very damaging to him. And at the end of the day, he is going to be acquitted in the Senate. So where does that get them? I don't know.
I think you about summed it up, Joe. I mean, I've been basically saying this is a military coup as far as Ukraine is concerned. All these generals and other people in the government coming on, and basically every testimony is, we hate his policy, we don't like his policy, and it's all opinion. Okay, well, nobody elected them; they elected Trump. But I kind of agree with you. I think Pelosi is in a box here because the radical left-wing elements of her party are so vibrant, and she's afraid of them. And so she kind of kowtows to them. And, of course, now she's got to open it up, but it's kind of not opened up because there's all these rules that favor the Democrats. So it's still kind of scammy. I mean, the whole thing is not legitimate. And I don't know where they're going with it, but I kind of agree with you. I think it's going to backfire because, meantime, Joe, nothing is getting done. USMCA is getting done. Drug pricing is not getting done. Medicaid choice is not getting done. Stop surprise billing is not getting done. I mean, there's a bunch of bills just sitting there because this thing has taken all the oxygen out of the room. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. We're live in Bannon's bunker, Steve Bannon's basement, right here, right by the Capitol for the War Room impeachment. They'll be on at 9 o'clock. I'm sorry. Joe with us now. We're going to go to a quick word from our sponsors, Joe. When I get back, this Henrico scandal with Shannon Taylor is befuddling to me. And then I want you to comment on her response, which is, I didn't know he was a donor. You didn't know he was a donor to your campaign? Thousands of dollars? What do you live under a rock? I mean, come on, man. Don't insult my intelligence. Just say, look, I took the money because I need it. I mean, that's a better answer than, I didn't know the guy was a donor. I mean, he's giving you thousands of dollars. Unbelievable, Joe. You're back here in the John Fredericks Radio Network. Joe Morrissey with us, fighting Joe. You know, Joe is a Commonwealth attorney. Joe is one of the best lawyers in Virginia. He won something like 55 cases in a row. Joe is one of the best guys out there to comment on this. Joe, the Shannon Taylor debacle, the scandal, what the hell is going on here?
All right, well, let me just kind of tee it up for your listening audience, John, because when I heard about this story breaking, and in fact, it just broke this morning in the newspapers and the Richmond Free Press. Jeremy Lazarus did an in-depth story on it. I've spoken to several present and former prosecutors, and here are the facts. Here are the facts. A defendant, I don't need to give you his name, that's not relevant, was arrested in July of 2018 on possession of drug charges, two felony counts, possession of heroin, possession of fentanyl. That individual had 4 previous felony convictions. That individual had been arrested 30 previous times with charges pending. Mm-hmm. In any event, thereafter, the timeline is as follows. He makes a contribution to Shannon Taylor.
Right.
His case then is then continued. Then he makes another contribution, and the case is continued. Then he makes a third contribution. Shannon Taylor, assuredly, I can assure you, knew who was making contributions. She's not that big of a politician not to know every day when, $1,500 is coming in. That's number one. Number two, this is how it went down. When the assistant prosecutor who was handling the case came forward and said, hey, wait a second. This is a defendant in court right now. All of a sudden, what I'm hearing is that prosecutor said, I am not going to do a deal. But that prosecutor was removed and a special prosecutor came in, a prosecutor who used to work for Shannon Taylor. Now, here's where it gets very interesting.
All right.
That special prosecutor comes in, and lo and behold, the case is dismissed. I'm not talking about first offender treatment. Mm-hmm. I'm not talking about drug court. I'm not talking about reducing it to a misdemeanor. I'm not talking about community service. It was dismissed. John, that doesn't happen. I've had 500 drug cases in Henrico County, and if you have a defendant who is a saint, i.e., no prior criminal record, gainfully employed, passes all of his drug tests, at the very least, that person goes through a first offender program. What does that mean? Counseling, regular drug testing, community service, etc. That's under 18.2251. This defendant got none of that. And he wasn't a saint. He had 4 previous felony convictions. He had numerous he had convictions in Chesterfield, Richmond, and Henrico.
Oh my goodness!
I'm telling you, it is, and then it is bizarre, and that the fact that she handled that case, and then prosecutor would not or could not handle it, and then the got dismissed is absolutely mind-boggling. And all of the lawyers in Henrico Courthouse are talking about it right now.
All right, so how much money in total did, and I can say the gentleman's name because it's in, I think it's in one of Taylor's press releases. The fellow's name is John Track. That's the defendant, John Track, Trak. So how much money did the defendant give? How much did he donate in total to the Shannon Taylor re-election campaign, Joe?
He made 3 contributions totaling $1,500. When this matter came to light, and it came to light over a month ago, Shannon Taylor was forced to give back, and she gave back $1,250. Why she didn't give back the final $250, I'm not sure. But it was given back. Here is the question that you have to ask: why did a white defendant with 4 previous felony convictions get special treatment? Was it because he made contributions to Shannon's campaign? Why did he get that treatment? I am telling you, John, that the treatment that person received was like none other that I've ever received. And when the special prosecutor came in, it was he didn't investigate the matter. He didn't look into it. He dismissed it. And trust me, there was communication between him and Shannon. It had to be.
Right.
It smells. And so bottom line is, if it seems like it's a situation where you pay to play. You pay money, you get off. And I'll tell you, John, let me put it frankly. Let me just give you my opinion. May I?
Okay. Yes, sir.
If I had done that, if I was running a campaign and somebody who was facing criminal charges got that sweetheart of a deal, I would not only would have been indicted, they would have skipped the trial and I'd go directly to prison. Mm-hmm. I heard prosecutors that have handled the case, or that are familiar with the case, around, and I'm not going to mention their names, but there's 4 or 5 of them that have spoken off the record to various reporters, have used the B word, bribery.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, Shannon Taylor ought to get on her knees tonight and thank God that this story broke so late in the campaign. Otherwise, it would have been fatal to a re-election campaign. And so she may get, because it's just not enough. I understand that other news outlets are picking up this story, but it's very late in the game.
Well, look, it's Halloween. It's October 31st. You've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So you got basically, with today, 5 days. I had Owen Conway, her opponent, Republican opponent, running against her on at 6:35 a.m. Pretty sharp lady, seems to have experience, has a plan. But to me, I don't care what the plan is or what the issues are. I don't know how you can stay as a prosecutor in a very diverse and big county like Henrico, and again, forget the issues that they're fighting about. I don't know how you can stay as a prosecutor with this tainted over your head, because now you just don't know, right? Any decision she makes, you're gonna have to check her financial disclosures for her campaign. And I tell you what, Joe, what bothered me the most here is I thought her response was insulting to my intelligence. I didn't know he was a donor. I mean, you're running for re-election for Commonwealth's attorney in Henrico. Somebody gives you $1,500. You don't know who it is. This is not like you're running for president or U.S. Senate in, Texas. I mean, you're running in Henrico County. Of course you know who your donors are, Joe. You call them up to thank them. And they ask them for more money and their family. I mean, that's how the game is played. So to think that
John,
you're going to...
Let me just say this. I have been raising money for my state Senate campaign. Every day I know how much money has come in. And do you know what I do every day? A letter goes out. Dear John, just a short note to thank you for your recent contribution to my state Senate campaign. It's because of friends and supporters like you that I can maintain an aggressive and zealous campaign. Please rest assured I'll do everything I can to represent the 16th Senate District with distinction. I've almost got it down verbatim. I sent that letter out every day. If you sent me, John, if your wife Ann sent me $25, I know about it that day.
Right.
The letter goes out the next day.
Right.
So, number one, I don't know how she could possibly not know that John Track gave them money. Also, John Track was working with a recovery home with whom Taylor has close connections to. And it's not just that. It's the optics. He contributed, case continued. Contributed, case continued. But with all that said, how do you explain the fact that a defendant who has 4 previous felony convictions, over 30 arrests, has been
right.
It's been going through the system in Henrico for a year,
right.
Possession of fentanyl and possession of heroin, get not a sweetheart deal.
Right.
Oh, no. It's a complete dismissal.
Yeah.
John, I'm telling you, that doesn't happen if the person is a saint. If I represent Jesus Christ,
right.
and he's charged with possession of fentanyl and heroin and has no prior record, at the very least, he gets first offender treatment.
This guy got nothing. All right, let me.
Nothing.
We're almost out of time. I got to stretch this a little bit, Kara. So I got 2 texts here. Questions for Joe. First question is Eugene in Newport News says, "Why does the man being white matter, Joe? Are you saying a black man donating the same amount of money would get off?"
Great question. What I'm saying is a black is anybody else, black, white, yellow, that had the same situation would not have had his charges dismissed. I want to know why I see his point. Why a white supporter of hers gets a sweetheart deal. I see. Maybe his question is, if he had been a black supporter, would he have gotten the same sweetheart deal? That's
yes.
And I say, good point. Good point by your caller.
Okay, final question here. Jeremy in Chesapeake says, Joe, I've worked with multiple non-profits and other companies that depend on donations. We saw and know who donated money in every nonprofit I ever had. Everybody knows who it is. That's the first thing you do when you get in the morning. That's Jeremy in Chesapeake. I mean, and my wife Ann sent $250 to $200. To Emily Brewer, running for re-election in Suffolk, friend of hers. 3 days later, Emily sends a nice handwritten card, a newspaper clipping, a note to my wife, a picture. I mean, this idea that somebody's going to give you $1,500, 3 donations, that you have no idea who they are, is an absurd answer. But look, Conway's got to get.
Let me be clear. Hold on just a second. Those donations were given back only after after a year and after this thing was about to break.
Right.
Shannon Taylor owes an explanation to the public, to the citizens in Henrico County, and it is disgraceful what she did.
Totally. I got to go. John Fredericks Radio Network. I want to thank Joe Morrissey for being with us. You'll hear him 10 a.m. today. Fight Joe. I got to roll. Kellyanne Conway coming up. Keep it right here.